He's like, I'm not ready for that.
This is the better part.
She knows too much.
But it's only going to be the best.
Well.
The only thing you have to know about poor Charlie is that
Poor Charlie,
poor Charlie,
as opposed to rich Charlie.
in this economy,
Different kind of wealth, Norma.
poor Charlie,
Okay.
in 5 days on April 18th, will have been married to me for 45 years. Now, I have to tell you how I
Oh, no.
found Charlie. My roommate was trying to seduce Charlie's roommate, and she was using me to cook. And so it was.
She was smart.
She took our pots to this place, and and then she took. We had to take soup. We made cookies. We took them camping. In the woods, we made oatmeal.
Yeah, we didn't have the right
and
camping
freezed
stuff.
ourselves silly, and still nothing happened between the two of them. Now, he and I knew they were trying to seduce one another, and we became friends. And
We used to sit outside waiting for them.
And the first time he made a pass at me, my response was, "Do you really want to do this?" And he said yes. And I said, "Well, I don't know about this because you're my friend." And I was very worried that if you transform this into a relationship, who knows whether we could
What's
still be
scared the crap out of me?
Yes.
And how did that turn out?
Better, worse, richer, much poorer, but he's still my friend after. One funny Charlie story. When Sarah was about to be born, we are supposed. There are two connected with the kids. I go into labor. We have no car. A friend is coming to pick us up to take us to the hospital, and this guy is coming along with his car, and Charlie is not right there. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm putting a suit on." Why are you putting a suit on? Well, because he had to get dressed up to meet his kid. So he puts his suit on, a good boss person that he is, and he takes a briefcase. I said, "Why are you taking a briefcase?" "Listen, you're in labor, you're hostile." So I said, "Why the briefcase?" "Well, because he's going to do work, and he's got his row with him, and he's got all this stuff. He's being very rational."
And you're both in grad school then, right?
Yeah, we're both in grad school, and so this one was being born at St. Francis Hospital because it was cheap, because we didn't have health insurance then. We saved the money to get the kid in and get out. And I had to come home to stay a day because I wasn't paying them any more than I had to. And it was very risky because I was an ex-Catholic and I knew that they were going to sniff me out, which they did. When Sarah was born on the Feast of Immaculate Conception, the nuns kept coming in and saying, "Oh, you're going to name her Mary, aren't you?" And I said, "No." "Well, of course you're going to name her something Mary." I said, "No." And so they said, "What are you going to marry?" And I said, "Sarah." And so then they left me alone because they suspected I was Jewish. She was born, and it was fine, and he came in, and he was a wreck. His suit was like this, and his tie was like this, and his hair was, he had hair then. It was all and I said, "What happened to you?" Well, he was in the waiting room. They wouldn't let fathers in, and so he was out going berserk.
They treated fathers nasty.
Very nasty.
And I was sitting there with my unopened briefcase, and all these priests kept going by with their incense.
And then when Adam was born, because Avis was already in the hospital with Jack, we had this big argument because I was going to be induced, and I figured, well, we still didn't have a car. And so I said, we were living on Whiteman Street, and I said, well, we can just go on the 67 bus. And he said, because I wasn't in labor, and so he said, no. I said, why? Because he didn't want his kid being born on the 67 bus. And I said, well, I don't think so.
61 is better.
What's that?
61?
Good for you, Charlie. Stand in
61
your
city.
ground.
Yeah.
But so we had this big argument, and we ended up taking a cab. I thought, oh, what the hell? I'll save myself.
Splurge.
Yeah, get this guy off my back. I'll go to the hospital.
68. 1968. Yeah, because Sarah was born in 64, Adam was in 68. Yeah.
So we
And
met.
probably the reason we have stayed together is because it's too hard to separate the books. You rip them in
It's
half.
such a big job. That, hey, you can't do
Plus
this.
sex every 4 years.
Right. But anyway. All right.
Well,
Charlie, do you have
I hope
anything
the
you'd like to
next
say?
7 years as much fun as the first 7.
I'll be here for the next 7.
You should all be here. That if there's any influence connection to your kids, I was so proud of his approach. When he was in his first year at Princeton, and he was going to fly home for Thanksgiving, and he was flying out of Newark, I guess.
Mhm, yep.
And we set this all up. We had a travel agent friend. I think we got tickets to him. And I'm at work the morning he's to come in, and the phone rings, and it's Adam. And he's at the airport. He says, Dad. I said, Adam. He said, I think we have a problem. And then he announced to me that his ticket was back in his dorm room, and he was at the airport.
Oh, my God.
And it was Thanksgiving, the worst time to do adjustments. And, of course, they wouldn't take a credit card from him that was mine, over the phone type thing. So we ended up calling our friend, who was a tourist agent that we'd used on other things, and she called someone she knew, whatever airline it was, and
Probably US scare.
they agreed to make a transaction. So we actually charged this new ticket, but he was able to do it at the moment. And I just gave him so much credit, and I said, you must have done something right, because he was so composed. So cool. I would have been out there probably in the men's room by that time, trying to deal with this, the anxiety. What was I going to do? So we got him home.
Thanks. I think it's having a non-panicking dad, among other things.
Yeah, at least on the surface.
At least under, yeah, right. That which is half of what matters.
Yeah.
It's true.